this is so important for people to remember. Real estate has and always will be cyclical. So you just have to know how to maximize in any particular market. And I think that's where a lot of people really struggle, is if they got into real estate in the last few years as investors, then they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now that things are different? Whereas, people like Glenn and I that have been through this kind of cycle before, we're like, oh, this feels very familiar. This was our bread and butter. This is how we got started. So we know how to approach the market a little differently.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast. I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lygia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're matching up the heavyweights of cash flow creation to see who reigns supreme. We do this so you can discover the best way for you to generate transformational cash flow and pursue the life of your dreams. So whether you're a side hustle seeker, full-time entrepreneur, or just looking to create job-quitting cash flow like we did, hit subscribe and grab your ringside seat for the most entertaining and informative investing show on the airwaves. In today's matchup, we're bringing together two super popular single-family cash flow business models. This episode is packed with some great tips on starting up, scaling, and successfully building a single-family real estate empire. So make sure you have plenty of note-taking capacity. Let's introduce today's guests. Fighting out of the sugar-soft sandy beaches of Destin, Florida, she's the CEO of the nation's top short-term rental and Airbnb rental agency, The Short-Term Shop. Overseeing a portfolio of over 220 rental units and having connected investors with over 5,000 cash-flowing short-term rentals, she is on a mission to help as many investors reach financial independence through short-term rentals as she can. She's a best-selling author, podcast host, real estate maven, coach, and big hair classic rock superfan. Please welcome Avery, the short-term slayer, Carl. And also fighting out of Florida in nearby North Reddington Beach, this real estate power couple has built their empire over the last 15 years after being $80,000 deep in credit card debt. From their point of desperation, they began cashing in on large chunks of profit in the single-family space through flipping homes. They flipped over 1,000 homes with a finished value of over $100 million and counting since 2007. Now, with a proven business model in hand, they are also on a mission to transform the lives of others with their flipping model. They are devoted partners, parents, coaches, and valedictorians of the School of Hard Knocks. Please welcome Glenn and Amber, the big flippers, Schworm. And now, as the legendary Michael Buffer says, let's get ready to rumble. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming on and sharing your cash flow insights with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. As a reminder, our show has 3 rounds. So round 1, we're just going to get to know you guys a little bit on a personal level. Round 2, we'll jump into your business models and some of the details on the ins and outs of how you generate your cash flow. And then round 3, we'll go a little bit deeper. The gloves come off. We'll try to see who's worthy of the title of cash flow champion. So
the gloves come off. We kind of like Avery. Just on our show.
I know. Like...
you gotta duke it out now.
I didn't know this was going to be a cat fight, Avery.
I know. Avery, how about you kick us off in round 1? What were you doing before real estate?
All right. So I was working in the music business. I was a marketing manager for a publishing company in Nashville, and I was making very, very little money because in the music business, it sounds like so much fun that there's always a line of interns who will do your job for free. And so I was really hating that and hating the idea of, well, actually, it was my dream job to start out. And then after about a year, it kind of lost its luster. And I was like, oh, cool. I make $37,000 a year for no reason. And just kind of wanted to figure out a way to bring in some more income. My husband and I were starting to think about having kids, and I knew that the boss that I had at the time, who I don't think really even liked me that much, she was not going to be receptive to like today. My daughter has strep throat, so that would have not have flown. So we're looking for something that could add some income, so to where we could, design our own lifestyles a little bit or a lot. And so we kind of found that with real estate. First, we started with a single family long-term. And then I don't know how far you want me to get into this before we get into the next round. But we only had like one down payment left for like one single family property. And so we said, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so that we can go buy more properties? And we landed on short-term rentals. So that's kind of how we got started there. And I guess I'll save the rest for.
Okay. Yeah. And when was this? Like when
This
time frame?
This is about 2015.
Okay. Yeah. A little bit ago. Awesome. All right. Schworms, how about you guys?
So how far back you want to go? I agree. So we started real estate. I bought my first house back in '87. So before Avery was born. So I bought my first house.
I was born the next year, actually.
Oh yeah. I knew it was around there. So, I bought my first couple houses back then and thought I knew. I was 18 years old, thought I knew what I was doing, and ready to take on the world. Then I lost them both to foreclosure, went through a bankruptcy, and I was 23 years old and went through some really, really rough financial times. So fast forward, I helped a lot of people with I always had creative finance ideas and loved real estate, read all the books. And I was a guy that actually took action, but then I got so knocked down in the dirt that I think I just didn't take action. I had my own business at 19 years old, a security and alarm company. I'm not really sure. I ended up getting divorced from my first wife, and Amber and I connected and bought our first rental property in 2003?
Yeah, something like that. We were just like so desperate to get into real estate. Glenn went and looked at this house, and one of his friends that was a contractor said, "I wouldn't touch that thing with a 100-foot pole." Like it was that bad.
Yeah, you said it was that bad. I wouldn't do it.
It was that bad.
So I bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You tell me no, I do it. So whatever. So that was not a smart investment for us.
But it's ended up paying off in the long term. And that's the cool thing about real estate is, you can hold on to it and it ends up being profitable after a while. But
we bought that, and then we end up starting we realized I was the landlord. I hated that part. Like the guy's calling code enforcement on me and the building inspector because he hadn't paid his rent, of course, and it's typical stuff with the landlord. And it was the worst property in the world. But Amber and I decided, I wanted to build a rental portfolio for cash flow, and Amber wanted to flip houses for bigger cash flow, just chunks of time. And I'm like,
and we needed the cash, doing rentals at that point wouldn't have been the best financial decision for us. So we did start off doing flips.
$80,000 in credit card debt, going through divorces from our spouses. I was the $80,000. She married me for my debt, not my money.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Nobody can ever accuse me of marrying him for his money. Yeah. Maybe his ambition, but not his money.
Yeah. So we ended up starting, and since then, so we started in 2007, the last recession, the housing market crisis. That's when we started, and
great timing.
Bought great timing. We again desperate. We didn't know it was good timing, right? Well, looking back, it was good timing, but we ended up buying a house that year, then 3 the next, and 7. And long story short, now we've done over 1,000 deals since we've been doing this at it. We live in Florida, and our business operates up in upstate New York, and we still do close to 100 deals a year. Did 82 last year, 102, 101 or 102 the year before that, and so we operate it remotely. So we're working on turning a business into a cash flow business without actively being involved in it. So we have lots of irons in the fire. Now we've got 14 Airbnb, 14, 15.
Something like that. Yeah.
Airbnbs,
short-term.
Yeah. Diversification. That's great. So it sounds like Glenn, you were always, or maybe not always, but at least for a long time, you've been in real estate. What about you, Amber? Did you start in real estate as well?
No, I didn't. I actually grew up, I was homeschooled through high school, and I ended up working for my dad's rubber stamp and engraving company. It was very glamorous. I came home smelling like plastic and ink every day. So for a long time, I thought I wanted to take over that business when he retired. But then as I started to, get into my probably late 20s, I took a closer look at that and realized that yes, while my dad was an entrepreneur, it was a brick and mortar business that owned him. it didn't provide him any freedom or anything.
Yeah.
So I started looking online at different options of ways to make money. And that's actually how Glenn and I met. He was in multi-level marketing, and he had somebody in his downline that put an ad, and I clicked on it.
Oh, wow.
Here we are.
All
Many
right.
years later, we ended up married.
20 years later, we are. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
That's great. Well, since it sounds like Avery's got a little background noise going on right now, no worries. We weren't hearing anything, but why don't you guys, Glenn and Amber, kind of take us into round 2? And you've already touched a little bit on your business model, but tell us about house flipping, for people that maybe don't know what that is, if there's one or two people out there who don't know what house flipping is anymore. But
What's funny is
I don't know what rock you're living under.
Right.
Because it wasn't maybe as popular 5-10 years ago, but oh my God, everybody now wants to do it. So
and what's funny is it definitely was the more appealing option for me. Like, I had the mindset of being a landlord, you are the person that's taking the 2:00 in the morning phone calls. My toilet's, clogged. And, I didn't really understand how you could systemize that. And so flipping was always the more appealing one to me, because I love the design and taking something ugly and making it pretty and everything. And I've done a total 180 on that now, though. Like, I want to keep adding to our renter portfolio. Like, that's all I want to do is focus on that.
Yeah, because it's funny. We had never discussed this publicly, but that was for me. I always wanted, ever since I was 18 or 19, open my first business. I wanted to have residual income. My first business at 19 was a security and alarm company that had monthly payments that came in for monitoring the alarm. So I always knew I wanted month checks to come in the door. So I wanted that, but then we sort of switched. But now we're very much on the path of positive cash flow. But so
we do still currently flip houses. Our company in New York flips and wholesales and all of that. It could, because different houses require different exit strategies. If you can make that quick $30,000, $40,000, $80,000 on a flip, and it helps the cash flow of your company, that still is sometimes the better option. But we hold on to as many as we can.
I think people like to have the flipping option is definitely more attractive from a large cash right up front perspective. But after you've done it a while, you're like, yeah, okay, so now I have to flip another house to make more money. And yet when we moved from New York to Florida, it was literally a case of, we were down here and we started looking at a house. I'm like, I'm not going to pay this much for a house on the water in Florida. Am I crazy? And then we started looking at it, and then I called the broker one day. He told me how much the payment would be if I put XYZ down. And I said, gosh, our short-term rentals alone would more than cover that, comfortably. Yeah. And that was a big eye-opening moment, just to say, yeah, just keep building that sucker, because that's where the money is, So that's what we do. So we do the wholesales, we do the flips, we do all that stuff in New York. Plus we keep buying rentals. We just bought a 9-unit building up there too. So we're over 50 doors now up there, houses and doors. We got the short-term rentals, and we also have a big education business where we teach people how to do what we do. And that's one of the reasons we stay so active in the flipping game and that, so we can be really a good educator for people, because we live it. We live it every day. We're in the mode every day. So there you go. Yeah.
So in that flipping model, then for somebody who's wanting to get into that, walk us through that process from, finding deals to financing them, and maybe more from the standpoint of somebody wanting to get into it. Then you're probably at a little different level right now, because you have a team that's out doing certain things. But when you started, I guess it sounded like you were doing the designing yourself and fixing things up. And kind of what's that process look like?
Well, kind of high level. I think now, especially now with where we are in the economy, I think that everyone needs to get back to some fundamentals. And it's been hard in the past couple of years to find off-market deals. And we still find a lot, because we have a big marketing machine that pays a lot of money for it. But now it's really about networking. You gotta do some marketing to find the off-market deals. And I talk about the 10 Ds of motivated sellers: so death, disease, divorce, dilapidated, decaying house, displaced, all these different Ds that describe a motivated seller. No matter what the economy is doing, whether it's high, whether it's low, interest rates are high, interest rates are low, it doesn't matter, because those things are still happening in the world. And those things create motivated sellers. And I believe as we come onto recessionary times, that those motivated sellers become even more motivated, because now not as many people want to buy the house. And I think for us, we're not seeing as much competition to buy a house as we did a year ago, because people are watching the news, get freaked out. And I'm like, there's still competition, but I think a lot of people that were like, hey, it's a piece of cake, I can buy something, I can make every mistake in the world and make 50 grand. Those days are over. You got to know what you're doing now. You've got to know. So I think that's
not only other investors, but also just typical buyers. Interest rates are a little higher, so there's not as many buyers to even compete with on that end. So it does, and I think another thing that we've talked about too is, people are freaking out. Oh, the interest rates are rising, da, 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 da. But really what was abnormal was 3 and 4% interest. This is more normal.
Right.
So in real estate, this is so important for people to remember. Real estate has and always will be cyclical. So you just have to know how to maximize in any particular market. And I think that's where a lot of people really struggle is if they got into real estate in the last few years as investors, then they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now that things are different? Whereas, people like Glenn and I that have been through this kind of cycle before, we're like, oh, this feels very familiar. This was our bread and butter. This is how we got started. So we know how to approach the market a little differently.
You asked about funding. The funding that we do, we always encourage other people's money for the whole thing. That's really what we encourage. And so we are big believers in private money, private lending, not hard money. We do teach students how to get hard money to get started. We had to do that to get started way back in the day. But we encourage building a private lender base. That's where the real money is in a private lender base. It's also the easiest money in the world to do. So it's the easiest money to get a hold of because we're to a point now where it's just a text or my team reaches out to an investor and says, hey, we need $250,000 tomorrow or next week. And okay, we get it. It's never not always that easy, but for the most part it is. And I mean, I laugh about it, but there's been many times our team's borrowing millions of dollars on a regular basis because of the system that we set up. So we teach the new people, listen, when you get in, first find the off-market deals, stick with the fundamentals, find, friends or family that want to help you and fund those deals and give them 10% of the deal, not the deal, but 10% in their money or 12%, give them a good chunk on the money. And then from there, we got to fix it and then flip it, of course. And then we like to hold as many as we can, but we also sell off for cash flow, depending on where we are in the business, what we need, So I hope that kind of answers at a quick high level. And hopefully, Avery.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of
aspects. The airways, so Avery can talk now. You good now? All right.
Yeah, the leaf blowers went elsewhere.
Good.
A quick question. How do you guys find your best deals?
Our best deals?
They're almost always off market because if they're on the MLS, everybody's going to know about them. Yes. So the off market.
And do you get those by direct marketing? Or are you like reaching out?
So we've been doing TV advertising for probably almost a decade. We've been doing it. Wow. We met a lot of our friends in a mastermind that we recently joined. They were all excited about starting TV marketing. I'm like, starting? We've been doing this for years. So it was, and then what I did do was we included a jingle. 5 years ago. Yeah, and we cannot go whenever we go back to our own town in New York. There's about 1 million people in the upstate New York area, and we cannot go back there without someone going, "Hey, the house guys, hey, we buy your house for cash, easy and fast." And people know the jingle. They're like, "You're so annoying," and they go, "But I remember what you do." Yeah. And I go, well, that's the whole name of the game, exactly. Right? So,
but if somebody's brand new, they're not going to go out and put a TV ad on the
correct.
So there's things like direct mail.
Yeah, you step into it, right?
The We Buy Houses signs out. A big one is just asking for referrals. Like some of our students will put on their Facebook page, their private Facebook page, hey, I'm getting into real estate investing. Do you have a house in your neighborhood? And I'll see some of our students' threads that'll just go crazy saying, oh yeah, the house next door to me, da 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 da.
I can tell you the number one thing that they should be doing right now, in my opinion, is to be networking with real estate agents because real estate agents have not been hungry in the past 2 years. They've been so lazy. I mean, no disrespect. We own a brokerage. That's one of our businesses, but but they've been lazy because all they do is buy a house and go, hey, I have a house it's sold. That's how fast it was going off the market. Right. So they haven't been that hungry. When we got started in 2007, they were starving. So they were networking like crazy with us. And we would say, listen, if you have any deals of people that are estate sales or people house need work or run down, bring it to me first. I'll let you have both sides of the commission and you can have the full commission. Just give me a first shot at it. And if I'm in a bidding situation, give me a hint. Let me know if I'm in the ballpark or not. And it's amazing when you network with real estate agents who I haven't pushed that in the past 2 years, but I'm going to push that now going forward to all of our students because that is where you find off-market deals because people call them first a lot of times. When they call them, you want the next call to be, hey, Glenn, hey, Amber, I got a house. You want to take a look at it? Sure. When's it go on the market? 3 days. But you can look at it today. That's what I want to hear.
And on the flip side, agents should be networking with investors.
You bet.
Because agents
are the ones buying.
So yeah, and I actually just did a post about this. If as an agent, if you sell a house to a homeowner, you might sell a house to them once every 5, 7, 10 years. Maybe you get a referral or two out of it. But if you have a relationship with an investor, you could sell them a house a year, 3 houses a year, 10 houses a year, depending on the investor, that number could even go up from that.
Yeah.
So real estate agents would be really smart to develop those kind of relationships.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of good things there. From the cyclical nature of real estate and needing to be able to adapt your strategies in multiple phases of the process. We've been in commercial real estate for a few years now and have just seen many of the similar things, right? The market gets paralyzed anytime there's some uncertainty coming. Those are great opportunities to come in and take advantage of things, right? Interest rates are ticking up. You just have to know how to work with those within your framework and your business model. Same thing with agents and brokers. The first year or two we got started, it was cold calling brokers nonstop, not getting any responses, barely getting offers. Now, we've closed a few multifamily deals, and we have those brokers in particular will call me first and say, "Hey, I've got a deal coming to market. Love you to take a look at it. What do you think?" Those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are great insights for people just to take what the market is presenting at the moment. There is a way to make it work, to do those things. So, well, Avery, you've been patiently waiting there. Let's hear a little bit about short-term rentals. I know that's for the last few years kind of been gaining some steam, and we certainly have them on our neighborhood. I think we have a lot of people short-term rentals, next door neighbors, and everybody's renting out their properties. But tell us a little bit about that business model and how you're taking advantage of it.
Yeah. So I want to hit on something that Glenn and Amber said first, though, about real estate agents, because I also own a team. It's technically like a brokerage within EXP, but I have to say a team at EXP or else I get in trouble. So it is true. Not only do real estate agents or whichever one you're using need to have a good relationship with a lot of investors, but they need to have a really good relationship with the other agents in the market, especially if it's a big investment market like the ones that I work in, like the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. Everything's an investment property. So, when that agent says, "Oh, I've got this deal, I don't have anybody for it. Hey, Avery, do you have anybody for it?" You can do a lot of off-market stuff that way. And like 90% of the agents do like 10% of the work. And they're the ones that, know the other agents well and have good relationships. And I have 700 and something reviews on my book on Amazon. 3 of them are 1 stars. 2 of them are from other real estate agents because I said, basically said most real estate agents are lazy. So
yeah, they don't like hearing that.
No. And then the last one was,
but they don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
that's awesome though, Avery. Good for you for getting
in the markets like we've had, you can afford to be a little bit lazy and just kind of we bought a house last year and it was nuts. I mean, it was
last year was crazy. Last year was not fun because it was like you had to make 27 offers for one person to get one contract. But anyway, back to short-term rentals. So for me, I focus on a very specific type of market and a specific type of property. So a lot of people I've been in short-term rentals since 2015. A lot of people got into short-term rentals in 2020 and 2021. It was kind of like this big gold rush of short-term rentals. And a lot of them didn't realize, because those weren't like real years, you could have bought, a porta-john in the middle of nowhere in 2021 and slapped it up on Airbnb and rented it, and it would have been fine. And a lot of people, I think, are probably about to get out of it that got in during that time because they don't realize that you do actually have to manage it. You have to pay attention to your listings. If things aren't working, you have to make some tweaks. So I'm going to preface it with that. Like, those are a lot of the people that you're seeing kind of exiting, which thank God, like get out. Leave us more deals for the ones of us who like to treat it like a business. So I focus on buying what I would say vacation rentals rather than just short-term rentals. So the difference would be like vacation rentals are in vacation tourism dependent markets. So I'm buying things in areas that it's the normal thing for people to go there and rent a cabin, condo, beach house rather than a hotel. Since forever, like the Smokies in Tennessee, there are not really any hotels there. Everybody who's ever gone there stays in a cabin. I live in Destin, Florida. Everybody who's ever gone on vacation to Destin, Florida stays in a beach house. So I don't really believe in or like there's like 2 or 3 houses on my street. Let me just buy these and turn them into short-term rentals. I don't like going in to neighborhoods because and I also don't like metro and suburban markets just because those are the types of markets that have the most pushback and anti-short-term rental regulations and friction, because you've got a lot of people who live in those markets whose income is not dependent on tourism. They're going to be a lot less receptive to having a short-term rental next door than like if somebody, down here in Destin, everybody's used to having 1, 2, 3 of them in their neighborhood just because it's always been that way. And then there's also a lot of hotel presence in metro and most suburban markets. So I like to stay away from those. I like to stay in areas where everything's dependent on the tourism that comes in and stays in the short-term rentals. And there are a lot of like short-term rental influencers out there. Most of them will tell you short-term rental is like the right and only thing to do. It's actually people's favorite thing to say to me. So I've got 245 doors. Only 8 of them are short-term rentals. The rest are single family and multifamily long-term. And everybody's always like, well, short-term rentals are so great. Why don't you own all short-term rentals? Because I use the income from the short-term rentals to be able to scale my portfolio in other ways. There's nothing wrong with having 1,000 short-term rentals. You just don't need 1,000 to get the cash flow where you need it to be to go buy whatever else it is that you want. So I'm a big believer in having a diverse portfolio and having, a little bit of everything so that if the market shifts in one thing, you've got the other things there to kind of bolster it. Like with COVID, we thought, oh crap, there go the short terms. It finally happened. The other shoes dropped, and actually the short terms boomed. And so it was actually our long terms that we had to worry about with the eviction moratoriums and everything. So we thought we had to worry about the short terms, and we're like, thank God we bought these long terms. We're such geniuses. And then it ended up being the opposite. So I think it's good to have a little bit of everything just so that you're never too dependent on one thing entirely.
Yeah, here. We're big believers in that as well. And that's interesting. I mean, you guys have both touched on the cyclical nature. I know, we're coming into some uncertain times with rates, and are we in a bubble? Are we not in a bubble? Market's going to correct. But yeah, I mean, 2007, 8, 9 was the perfect example. We talked to so many people who were 100% invested in rentals and got crushed just because of the market. And a lot of people are that we know, at least, that have been through all that are very big on diversification and trying to protect yourself with however you structure your business such that you don't get caught if at all possible. But yeah, the markets seem to be, I mean, we experienced the same thing with COVID. We have a few different real estate businesses, and we thought they were all just going to flatline, and they all just turbocharged. I mean, we were hanging on for a couple of years, and to your point, the last couple of years have been like that. I think almost anybody in this hot market can be a hero. And we're just now coming into the time where you really need to be practicing some good business fundamentals to be able to generate the cash flow securely with minimal risk and being able to stack that up, because there are a lot of pitfalls out there and more coming, I believe. So yeah, interesting. That's great. I love the way you're hyper focused on the market that you want to be in. Right. So you have a strategy and you're kind of in there. We think the same thing. Like I said, we live in a mountain community. We just bought our home in. I don't know how many homes are here, 50 or 70 maybe. And we've seen a lot of them come and go for sale. And the ones that have sold recently are all short-term rentals. And we were kind of thinking, I mean, it's beautiful to live up here. I don't know that I would consider a steady short-term rental business, but it seems like it's working for people. So I don't know. I guess there's enough of a draw, but I think it probably is a different marketing pitch than that. If you go into the city, or it's a town that's we're not in the town limits, but within the town limits there are, as you mentioned, some restrictions in terms of being able to. I don't think they even allow short-term rentals anymore to be put there, but up here it kind of goes. So interesting stuff. Yeah. Questions?
Yeah, no, let's go to the round 3, the fun round, when the gloves come off. And we would like to hear from you guys why your business model is the best model for someone to start and to do this. So also, if you have questions and you see weaknesses in your opponent's model, please say so. And you can ask each other questions. But let's start with Glenn and Amber.
Yeah, and maybe touch on things that we didn't touch on in terms of tax implications of flipping properties or things like that. Just to get a little more flavor on some things that we maybe don't think about.
Well, keep in mind that flipping is a means to an end for us, right? Flipping, if we flip to stay in the game because we educate people on how to flip, and plus it's runs like a business for us that we're not involved. We're literally 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Or if we're 1,000 miles away from it. So it's more of a passive income that we set it up for now. If we had to pick it, like if you took us out and said, hey, you start from scratch, I'd be buying rentals. I mean, I'd be buying rentals without question. And the trick, I think, with just buying rentals, though, is that you have to cash flow them.
Right.
Or you have to cash flow them. And that's what flipping does for us to self cash flow. So I think that, if I was to think about our model, we use the cash from flipping to be able to have rentals, right? Even though we're marketing to find flips, right? And so we market to find flips, and then we take a portion of those and turn them into rentals. So we're still buying it well below market value. So hopefully we can do a cash out refi and take out cash from the rental that's tax free. So you're talking about tax implications, right? If you can live on, if you think of it this way, if you could do 5 deals a year buying rentals, flipping them to yourself essentially, and you could take out 20 grand a year in tax-free money with a cash out refi. I mean, your listeners, if they know what that means, if you're buying a house for whatever the number is, $100,000, you put 15 grand into it, make it worth 180 grand, whatever, and it turns into a rental. You do a cash out refi on that, and they'll give you 75% or 80% loan to value or LTV. You're going to be able to put $20,000 roughly in your pocket, tax-free, because it's a loan. It's not it's not income. So if you do 5 of those deals a year, it's what was that?
I said, or another property.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you want to have cash to live on, you could take out 20 grand on 5 houses, have 100 grand in tax-free money. That's like making 180 grand on a W-2 income. Have a good life while you're building your rental portfolio up. So, and then for us too, we share the same passion for Avery. She has more than we do, but we share the same passion when it comes to short-term rentals. We started that when?
At the end of 19, before it was pre-COVID, we had our first one, and we thought the same thing. Oh my gosh, all of our reservations just like canceled.
Yeah.
But then we ended up with like long-term stays throughout the entire COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where we disagree, I don't know about disagree as much as we just different strategy. We
different strategy.
Know. What we don't, disagree is because we don't really have the experience to know. What we have is all neighborhoods. So what you said is true. We do battle. We have had battles with the town, but because we do so much business in the town, we had pull, right? So that helped. And that helped a little bit when it came time to the town meeting and 50 people showed up in our favor. They went, oh, so it's a different game.
But on the flip side of what she's saying, we're not dependent, like if the recession gets really bad, that might be one of the things people cut out of their life is travel destinations. So whereas the hours are in mostly just complete non-residential. Yeah. Nobody says, hey, honey, let's go to Albany for vacation. Like it doesn't happen. Nobody does.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to go there to visit. But being that it's a non-travel destination, there's still people that go there for weddings and funerals and graduations and work. And because my Aunt Sally is having surgery and, my house is getting remodeled. I need somewhere to stay for a few months. And, so being that ours isn't dependent on that is also a bonus in our mind. Yes, we do have to deal with the neighbors, but there's also ways to work around that as far as making friends with them, offering to have your lawn guy do their lawn, make them part of the process. If you see any issues, make sure you let me know.
Yeah, personalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the side benefits is, this isn't for, this part isn't for everybody, but our 23-year-old son manages that business for us. So, he works right side by side with Amber, and it's pretty cool because he was just down here for 2.5 weeks. He stayed through the holidays and he stayed extra because he works remote. So he can do what he wants. He works from his phone, and I'm sort of removed from that business. They sort of fired me.
Yeah, we fired him.
They fired me about a year in. They said, get the hell out of here. We don't want you. We don't want your ideas. Get away. We don't want you anymore. I'm like, okay, fine. So they run that business without me, but it's cool to see my family in a business where they can grow and work together. And that's been very rewarding as a side note for us.
You know what though, Mike, you mentioned talking about tax implications too. And I think it's really interesting. We do a lot of marketing on Facebook for our workshop. And, sometimes we'll put like some of our student success stories, hey, so-and-so bought this house for $100,000, go through all the numbers. Hey, they ended up profiting 60 grand. It never fails. There's always this big long thread of, but then they had to pay taxes on
taxes.
like
That's nothing wrong with taxes. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
I
It's
mean,
just different
but you still
strategies.
ended up profiting. And what people don't understand, like capital gains, what people don't understand is if you're doing this as a business,
you can, especially when you're buying rentals, right? You can depreciate that stuff and you can make it so you don't have to pay any income tax.
right?
Right. So that's all of us know in real estate know that, right? And if we don't know, you should know that, right? So there's a lot of benefits to just real estate in general. I think we all agree on that.
But it's interesting that you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of people think that knowledge or lack of knowledge holds people back from getting involved in something that could be really, really good for them.
Yeah. And that's why I like to talk about some of those types of things, just because, I mean, we have, like I mentioned, a few real estate businesses, and some depreciate, some don't depreciate. And now that we have real estate professional status, we can kind of share all that income and offsets and know how to play with the different assets that we have. But it is, and that's why it's important to understand, to speak the language of what your business is, so that how to advantage the system as much as you can.
And how to have the right people around you.
Yes, it's definitely team.
For sure.
How do you guys see, forward-looking 6 to 12 months, or maybe even already in your experience, in terms of pulling equity out of properties and doing refinancing? Is that still an attractive business model with the rates going up and things like that, or how does that?
I don't think right now. I mean, you have to buy so we just bought a 9-unit, right? And so I think we paid. I haven't seen it. Of course, my team does it. I think it's 2.25 we paid for it. And it's on 5 acres of land. And I think it's assessed right now at $400. Now, the guy, just real nice guy. We actually knew a business owner in town, sold another business for millions, a golf course for millions. So he had lots of money, just wanted to step away from this thing. We bought that deep enough where I called my local bank. I said, "Where can you guys get me in at?" And he said, "I'll get you in around 6.25. How about maybe 6.5?" I said, "I can stomach 6.5. That'll work." Yeah. Now, that goes to 7, 8. That's not an attractive deal anymore. Right. So I agree with you. The cash out refi, strategy is not the best strategy in a high interest. Although if you can stomach it for a while, eventually they'll come down to a number that you can refinance. I don't know if it's going to be the 3% again. That's ridiculous. But I mean, if it does, great. But I think with real estate, it's a time game too, because as long as you're in the game and making moves on a yearly basis, you'll always essentially dollar cost average everything, and it will work out because interest rates will drop. You'll have a chance to refinance. Values go up. You can sell one. You have so many options when you're in the real estate game.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too about the rentals, and I think we almost did this unintentionally, but like we would buy them and just let them be and not really think about them anymore and not take that money out all the time. And, 10 years later,
the appreciation.
We have so much equity in those houses. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. And houses typically, I think they double in value every 20 years. So those 10 years are going to go by in a person's life anyway. Those 20 years are going to go by anyway. Why not be making money the whole time that just kind of like keeps growing in the background?
Yeah.
That's a great point.
All right, Avery, what about short-term rentals? How's kind of the market shaping up in influencing the business model of late?
Yeah. So it's a great time to be a buyer right now because there's a lot of people. It basically, like, all the weaker hands have kind of been shaken out of the market. Like the people who were buying, last year and the year before, just like to impress their friends with their new beach house that they, Airbnb because it's like fun and they can say like, "Oh, look at my wonderful interior design skills." I think that a lot of those people are out now. And so the people who really are like have the mindset of real estate investors and viewing all of this as a business are able to get good deals because things are sitting on the market longer. There's not as much competition. I still think that the market is very, very important. So when it comes to travel, when it comes to recession. So one thing that we learned from the last one is that people do still travel and they do still drink during a recession. They just don't go as nuts so they just don't go on as much of an expensive vacation. So like big expensive vacations like Jackson Hole, Hawaii, maybe they're not flying to Mexico to go to the beach, but they will drive to Panama City to go to the beach. So if you're focusing on regional drivable vacation destinations, they're accessible and they're affordable. So people they need an escape really more than any other time when they're like having a hard time, potentially if they're having a hard time because they're in a recession. My husband owned a bar in New York City during the last recession, and everybody was like, oh, you're going to go broke. You're going to go broke. Here it goes. It's like people are excited to, see you not do well for some reason. And he figured out a way. He had what he called a happy meal, and it was a Budweiser in a bottle and a shot of Jameson for $7, which in New York City, that was like dirt cheap. And he stayed open the entire recession, made more money than he actually ever made on the bar during that recession because he gave people an affordable option. So I think it's the same thing with travel. Maybe you're not going on the big Jackson Hole trip, but you might drive to the Poconos or to the Catskills or the Smokies or wherever it is. So we try to stay in those regional, accessible, affordable markets and, not go nuts. As much as I'd love to own something in Jackson Hole personally.
Yeah, right.
That's a big
trip. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big vacation for most people. Let's see. I made some other notes. Cash out refi. I agree. Like it's a little bit of a weird time to maybe try and do that. It was a great time to do that last year and the year before. Cash out where I didn't cash out. I just refied my house into that I live in for 2.75. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a little bit of a weird time to maybe do that because we don't quite know what's going to happen with home value. So you might actually end up underwater if you don't know what you're doing. And then other than that, just like the interest rate, if you bought something at last year, then your interest rate's a lot better than what you would be able to pull out now. So you have to kind of weigh is it worth pulling this out to now raise my payment by this much? So I think you want to be careful with that right this second, just like Glenn and Amber said. But yeah, I think that short-term rentals are I think we're in a after the gold rush, like the Neil Young record. After the gold rush scenario.
That's way beyond your time. Come on, Neil Young. Come on.
Gonna say it.
Oh yeah,
an old soul. That's old.
Oh yeah. I've seen Neil twice.
Wow.
Yes, I'm a big fan. But I think we're kind of in that period right now of kind of watching things settle down and see, what's happening. I'm still buying in all of my asset classes because I think we will be able to pick up some good deals from, the type of people who weren't necessarily looking at it as the business that it is. And I think it's a great time to be a buyer because you can get those good deals. And I think everything's just kind of settling down and normalizing. And a lot of people are kind of crying wolf about that. The entire world is falling because I made less money this year than I made last year. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter how many years you own real estate. You're only going to have one best year ever. So if you have your best year ever.
That's a good line.
Yeah. So if you have your best year ever followed by anything other than your best year ever, the sky's not falling. It's just business. Everything goes up and down. So I think everybody needs to quit freaking out.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. In terms of short-term rentals, I don't think we've really touched on, but what are the entry point and exit in terms of are you able to get into properties for no money or, how much on average versus how long does it take to get, to a positive number or, to if you have to put 20,000 down, how long before you've recouped that and you're in the black or kind of how does that play out typically?
That's a great question. So I like to keep, as far as my short-term rentals are concerned, everything the least amount of BS possible. So, yes, I will do a rehab property if it's a good deal. But if you're buying in the right market, a lot of times, especially in the vacation markets, properties will come furnished already. So you can knock that expense off of your sheet right out of the gate. There may be some things you want to change or update, but it can be, if you're buying a 5-bedroom, you're looking at a minimum of $50,000 cash up front to put the furniture in. So if you choose your market wisely, that can be done for you for $0 just as part of the real estate transaction. Because if you're selling a vacation home or an investment that's already a short-term rental, it's actually, I want you to pay me more money if I have to go get all my furniture out. Because then what am I going to do? That's a big hassle. So in most of the markets that I work in, the furniture just comes with it for free, extra. So you can knock that line item out. You can get into a short-term rental for 10% down on a second home loan, but you do have to follow the rules. So second home loans, there are some rules about that. You do have to intend to primarily use it as a second home with a minimum of you guys staying there for 2 weeks out of the year. So if you really want to have a house in insert market here and you plan to use it for 2 weeks out of the year, you are allowed to rent it out and make money on it the rest of the year. But my advice to people to make sure that they like stay coloring in the lines on that is like, if you're running spreadsheets on a property, you should probably just go with the minimum actually conventional investment loan percent down. A lot of people don't know this is 15% if it's a single family. So if you're kind of towing that line and spreadsheeting this, you should probably just go ahead with the 15% down. Yeah. And then it also depends on what time of the year, what time in the market cycle you buy. So if you're buying a beach house, like say in Destin, for example, the season in Destin is from March to the end of October. So if you're getting under contract in September, closing October, you are going to have to carry that property into March. But if you're buying in February, closing in the middle of March, you're going to be in the black already. So like the first month. So it just kind of, you have to, depending on what your goals are, you have to time it right. If you want to be able to have less competition and get a better deal in a beach market, you want to buy towards the end of the season because there's a lot of investors out there who want to get in the game, but they don't want to carry it into, they don't want to carry it over the winter. So it depends on what market, what time of the year you buy on, how quickly you start making money.
Sure.
Avery, can I ask a question? I'm curious of something because being that we're both in the space, I'm very curious of your thoughts on something. Airbnb as a whole, short-term rentals as a whole, people fight like crazy. Will they ever be taken down, do you think? And I'm asking because we live in, St. Pete. We live on the beach here in St. Pete. We're not too far down from you, right?
Right.
And Indian Rocks, of Indian Rocks, big battle going on right now. And a huge part of the economy there is short-term rentals, but there's a big battle there. Now, where we live, I actually work out with the mayor here, our town's 1 square mile. So it's a little beach town. He's
a big shot.
Oh yeah, I know. It sounds funny. If you saw the guy, you'd be like, oh, he's the mayor. But anyway, he said, oh yeah, we'll never allow short-term rentals in the town. Now he said, we allow them on the strip, but we never allow them in the town. It's a 1 square mile town.
On the residential street.
And I wonder, it sounds in that we live in a world where people that cry the loudest seem to always get their way. And I wonder what your thoughts are about that. Because I certainly hope not, but I wonder.
Yeah. So in terms of like short-term rentals being allowed at all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's hard to say. A lot of those, and the reason that I haven't opened any real estate offices down in South Florida is that even if you're looking at like a Siesta Key, Longboat Key, Anna Maria Island, all those places right there, there's still like you've got Sarasota, Tampa, all these Clearwater, all these really big cities that have a lot of hotels there to push against that. Whereas like up here in the Panhandle, we're basically lower Alabama. There are 10,000 people that live in this town. There is every single person's business depends on tourism, and there's nowhere for those tourists to stay other than in short-term rentals. So I think the longer it's been established, the better off that market is. Like here, we've had short-term rentals, we've had vacation rentals on the beach since before there was electricity in Destin.
Sure.
And it's just always been that way. So I think it just depends on the town itself and how dependent it is on that tourism and where the tourists would go if short-term rentals were basically outlawed. Like Destin would completely fall apart because if somebody came in and said, okay, no more short-term rentals, there would not be enough permanent residents of the city of Destin to fill all the short-term rentals as long-term rental tenants. Yeah. So it really depends. I think it's gonna be really market specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, where we are, we're our rentals are all upstate New York, and it's definitely a market that town by town we've had to fight a couple battles. We had a couple battles where they could have went either way. I mean, the town board, I had to go meet with them. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to fly back now and fight for that. We always have a plan B with our rentals, is just to rent them as a lease option or something a little higher rent. But we always tried to finance it in such a way where if the carpet was pulled off underneath us, we could go forward as a regular rental. Now, I wouldn't like the cash flow nearly as much, but we could always do it if we had to. Because that's one thing that's a concern for people that don't do it in the vacation. But I agree with you. If it's a spa that's been doing it for, generations, they're used to it, and then they're not going to be fighting about it. But like Indian Rocks, I was shocked when that happened. Do you know where that is down here?
Yeah, that's like right a little further south, right?
Yeah, it's between us and Clearwater, so it's kind of there. So it's south of Clearwater, but it's an area that's highly dependent. I mean, highly dependent on renters. But man, the town, it had these big hundreds of people show up on both sides of the equation, and I just wonder whoever's voted in charge if they ever took those away. There's people. I have friends that have had $1 million. Like you said, during the boom, they bought these $1 million houses. If that got taken away, that income, good luck. That's a big nut to crack every month without having a tenant in there. So I just wonder. And here's a little side note: what's his name, Brian Chesky or whatever, the founder of Airbnb. He's from our town up in New York. That's where we grew up. Actually,
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I grew up a town away from him. So,
but this conversation is making me think, though. Your wheels get spinning. Like, I wonder if there's a lot of people. I think you mentioned this, Avery. There's a lot of people that got into short-term rentals in between 20 and 22 that may want to get out because it wasn't all they bargained for. They're tired of dealing with the customer service aspect of it. Maybe their bookings are dropping or whatever. So that could be like a really niche market for investors to go after and direct mail those people. And a lot of them probably have really good interest rates on those houses. So those,
I had the same thought earlier in this conversation. Somebody brought that up, and I was thinking, that's a marketing avenue to go after.
Yeah.
You'll have these people wanting to either bail out of their properties or do something. But
short-term rentals are definitely not a passive. Our experience, it's definitely not a passive income. Like our long-term rentals, I have a management company that just does it, and I literally don't do anything with them except. If there's a problem, I send my team out to fix something.
We buy them and forget them pretty much.
Yeah. Now, I think if you can get to the point where we are, when I say for me, our short-term rentals are very, very passive because Amber and my son take care of it. Now, if they were not in the equation, we have to hire somebody else to take care of it, but it would still be 20-25% of the rev.
Right.
To take care of it. But that's for us. I think I'm always striving to say, how can I turn my business into a passive income business?
Right.
Even the short-term rental piece. But if people get into short-term rentals thinking it's going to be passive, you got another thing coming, baby, because it's not even close to being debt passive. I'm sure you agree.
Well, I think it's very similar to what you just described. You have to scale your business to a point to where you can have enough revenue coming in to outsource a lot of those tasks, right? Where you have the different things and still be able to bring in the money. It's a self-managing company, as they say, which
for sure.
Avery, do you feel like the industry has changed too and like evolved as far as people's expectations? Like they're expecting to go in there and have all of the amenities and have it be like a hotel and get the customer service instead of just, I'm renting some room from somebody's house.
Yeah. And I think that when I started, most investors were like, Airbnb, that's for people to like rent each other's futons to each other. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, people started to see like, this is actually a legitimate asset class. Let me buy a few of these. And so it kind of established itself as a legitimate asset class. But it definitely, there's a lot, I think a lot of people, it's kind of like the sexy real estate thing to do because it is fun. It's a lot more fun to go shop for a beach house than it is to shop for like a 15 unit in the Midwest.
Right.
Sure.
So I think people get caught up in that. And then there is the passive income part of it. And I say passive for tax purposes, not for actual work purposes. So I think there's a lot of influencers in the short-term rental and Airbnb space now that post things like, and some of them have been my clients that I know they're not telling the truth because I know exactly what they bought and I know what it makes. But they're posting like, you can make this much money. I'm making $100,000 a month on my short-term rentals. And I'm like, they own 6. That is not how much that makes. But I think a lot of people follow them. These people get tons of followers because that sounds great.
Dream.
And then they get in thinking, all I'm going to have to do is just, couple things here and there, and I'm going to make $100,000 a month. And it's just that's not what it is. It's very easy to automate. There are a lot of really great property management tools and dynamic pricing tools now to where you can automate it. Like we have 8, we self-manage those in 4 different markets in 2 states. And we just have a part-time virtual assistant that kind of helps us with those. So it's very easy. It's not a lot of work, but it's still, you still have to perform tasks and manage your systems. It's cool because you can do those tasks from the beach or the bar or wherever you want to be. You're not sitting at a desk with somebody bossing you around, but it's not a set it and forget it thing like a lot of people seem to think that it is. That's what my long terms are. We've got property managers for those. That, we don't hear about that until somebody moves out and it's time to renovate. But with our short terms, we don't mind having to send a text here and there for the amount of money that they bring in. But it is,
right.
more work.
Yeah.
Right.
Right on. Yeah, you guys closed on the topic that I wanted to hit, which was really just the active versus passive management. And, I think it's no surprise in both businesses that there is a fair amount of active level of work that has to be done, whether it's contracting on the flipping side and getting things, up and in a sell ready condition versus just regular day-to-day, week-to-week management on a short-term rental.
And I feel like passive income, there's no business model that is truly passive.
I agree with
Very
that
few.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to renovate a long term, usually anytime somebody moves out. So it's there's nothing that's truly passive where you can just lay on the couch the rest of your life and not pay attention to anything.
Yeah. Plus, you got like $100 million in the bank. That's about all you can, not even the bank. But you got $100 million invested. That might be passive. But other than that,
Right.
When it comes to real estate, I agree. You definitely have to have some input on a regular basis. But hopefully you have less and less if you build the right teams in place.
Yeah.
So
Both business models are so fascinating to me, and I wished we had more time to dive in. And really, throughout the matchup, Mike and I look for some key factors like simplicity of the model, typical ROI, risk versus reward. And it's really hard because we only scratched the surface. I feel like it's going to be hard for us to pick a winner for today.
my vote's Avery.
Yes, I vote Avery.
I do 100%. I do. Honest to God.
It's too, it's fun.
So Avery, so let me plead my case because I wish I had done passive income a lot sooner.
Yeah.
And the fact you've got a couple hundred units is something that I wish that I had done younger in my life and wish I had focused on that earlier. I wish I had kept going when I started at 18 because I was 30 some years ago. So that was a long time ago. So I wish I had done that. So looking back, I do love the simplicity of her model. So hands down, in my opinion.
Well, thank
I
you,
agree.
guys.
No kidding. No,
All right. I think it's a unanimous decision then. In this,
Yeah, she's
matchup
speaking
we're
to
going.
our regret. She's speaking to our regret.
Oh,
It's like,
goodness.
how do you compete against that? So
Yep.
it's good.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly gloves off this whole conversation, was it?
No.
Everybody's like, I agree. I agree.
Plus, I thought it was funny that Avery Venmoed me $100 and said, vote for me. So I said, fine, I'll do it if you want me to. I don't mind. No, I'm kidding. No, very, very, very
Religion,
well
I agree. I think this short-term rentals is a great model.
The way she does it for sure.
Yes.
Because I think she's very dialed in on a certain market. So that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. But congratulations, short-term
Yes.
rentals and Avery.
Thank you.
Cash flow champ of the week. And so anyway, like we like to end our episodes with a little bit of gratitude. So real estate in particular, but almost all businesses, as they say, are a team sport. And so we like to give you guys the opportunity to maybe shout out to somebody who's made a difference along your journey. And I don't know, Avery, if anybody stands out as somebody that's helped you get where you are today, feel free to share a little bit of gratitude.
Well, my husband won't come on podcasts. So he and I do everything together. It's very much a team effort. He still has his quote day job as part-time just because it's really fun. So he's a classic rock DJ on Sirius XM and he just does it on the weekend.
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure I hear him. That's my generation. So I'm sure I know.
Yeah, he's
What's his
on,
name?
His name's Luke Carl. He's on
Okay.
38 and 39, which is Ozzy's Boneyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to be
I know exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So
But he won't come on a podcast. What's up
no,
with
yeah,
that?
Oh, I know. What's up with that?
He's like, I don't want it to be about me. I don't want any attention. I just want to talk about Winger and make Metallica jokes all day.
That's
So
funny.
that's
You
fine.
just believe your
the
age, you know all
total
those groups. I
spotlight.
love you even more. This is great.
And
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
You mentioned Neil Young. Pearl Jam is my all-time favorite band ever, and they're like big fans of Neil Young too. He shows up
that
at
is,
concerts all the time. And
My husband is a huge Pearl Jam fan. He has a really funny story about he was like 15 and I don't know, I'm surely he did not mouth off to this person, but he got punched through the window of his mom's minivan and it knocked him out. He was driving and his friend couldn't find anything to put on his it was like right in the eyebrow and he ended up with one of his mom's maxi pads stuck to his face.
oh my gosh,
Because he couldn't find, at a Pearl Jam concert.
That is
I was gonna say, I
awesome.
wasn't sure what the tie-in was there, but Pearl Jam concert. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure Eddie Vedder would be very proud.
Yeah.
He would.
So
That's
Very funny.
He's definitely my shout out. He handles like all of our acquisitions and everything now. And I just kind of run the brokerage, but he makes sure that the brokerage is very important. But our generational wealth is more important. And he has taken all of that over and handles all of that. So I wish I had some advice on how to work with your spouse or how to get your spouse on the same page with you about real estate, but I don't, because we've always just been on the same page automatically somehow. But definitely my husband is my shout out.
That's nice. Yeah. We could probably do a whole nother episode since we're three couples that seem to work in the real estate space. But a lot of what we tell people is exactly what you just mentioned. We have a great personal relationship foundation already. And then just to put a business on top of that, it's seamless almost. So we work really well. I can appreciate.
We had our battles in the beginning. We're both type A's. So we definitely had our battles, but we figured it out.
Okay.
With us, it was defining our roles.
Yeah. That's it. If you have your and you're not overstepping too much, or if somebody, I guess, tolerates it. But yeah, it's all a little bit of a dynamic there. How about you guys, Glenn and Amber?
You
can't say each other,
but I was actually thinking the same thing as Avery. I would actually, I'm grateful for Glenn, because while we're both visionaries and we're both type A's, he's more of a visionary than I am. So he pushes me out of my comfort zone. So I would have stayed, playing the safe route a lot longer, and we wouldn't be nearly as far as we are today without his vision, his aggressiveness, and his lack of fear, his risk-taking ability that pushed me out of my comfort zone. So I'm grateful for where we are today.
I probably have two. One is you, the same opposite reasons, but same thing. You inspire me every day and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to, you keep me going, you keep me level headed when I lose my shit. And my brain gets kind of crazy sometimes. You're good about that. So it's been and plus she's always been the thick and thin. She's been in the trenches with me, and I shoved her through doggy doors in early days to break into houses. Not that we ever broke into houses. Let's make sure I'll say that. We never did that. None of us have done that, I'm sure. So, but we, we've worked our way. We've been grinding together side by side. And my mom's 80, almost 86.
86 in March.
Yeah, she'll be 86 in March, and she still teaches 20 piano students. And she's a bull. She works. She has a relentless work effort. It just doesn't stop. And so I think I learned that from her and my dad. Dad's passed, but my mom's still with me. And so I learned that from a very young age, just to work for what you want. And so a couple of women that inspired me for sure.
I don't know, Avery. Do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Amber.
I was going to say, in addition to his mom, our son was born 3 months premature. He was 2 pounds and 10 ounces when he was born, and spent 87 days in the NICU. And we gave him her maiden name, his mom's maiden name, because we knew he'd need to be a fighter.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I love it.
That's great.
I know you guys do a big education aspect on the home flipping. Do you do similar, Avery? I know you have the book, obviously, but do you do coaching or education classes or anything like that on short-term rentals?
Yeah, we do. We have a 5-week live coaching course called the Vacation Market Masterclass. And then we also, we have real estate agents in 15 markets. And if you buy with our real estate agents, then we have a whole training program for all of our clients that's free, that we do while you're still under contract. So by the time closing rolls around, you already know what you're doing in terms of management. You've already got your listing set up, all that stuff. So we have the free version for our clients, and then we have a paid version for if you're buying somewhere that we don't operate yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll close with two things then. So you've already touched a little bit, but Avery, continuing with you, for anybody that wants to get in touch with you and is interested in short-term rentals, best way to get in touch with you. And then one thing I always like to hear is from people that you see be very successful in this, what's a characteristic that really kind of drives that success that you see from students or clients or whatever that kind of go on to be successful?
Adaptability, for sure. People who are very rigid and not adaptable tend to not be able to handle, the things that get thrown at you with short-term rentals. So as long as you're adaptable, you should be okay, because, things are going to get, they're going to rock and roll a little bit. And you're going to have to take some punches from some guests here and there, not physical ones, figurative ones. And then you can find me. Instagram is the best way to find everything all in one place. It's at The Short Term Shop, or our website, theshorttermshop.com.
Okay, perfect. And Schworms, how about you guys?
Yeah, so the best way to
good characteristics you want to know, I'd say never
Yeah,
quitting.
both.
Yeah,
You just have to be relentless. I think you have to never quit. And when you get knocked down, you get back up, lick your wounds. And the faster you get back up, the faster you get to it. Because the clock keeps ticking on life, whether you're happy, sad, mad, just got to keep working.
yeah, I was
Keep
thinking
grinding.
tenacity and ambition.
Tenacity. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Tenacity and ambition is what I was thinking.
Find us.
So yeah, if people want to find us, they can go to glennandamber.com. That has links to our podcast and our book and our show. We took a student all the way from A to Z through flipping a house. That was really a really fun experience. All the links to our social media platforms, all that good stuff. So glennandamber.com.
Love it.
As well
All
as
right.
our courses are on there too.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, sharing your insights. And I know we certainly learned a lot about your business models, and I think I'm probably inspired to dip a toe in the short-term rental market for sure. We've done a little bit of flipping, but yeah. For the rest of you guys listening, Lidge and I truly believe the beauty of cash flow is putting your money fighting for you rather than you having to fight for money. So whether it's one of these methods or something else, we encourage you guys to dream big and most importantly, take action. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thanks.